Totally different. She would only speak to the audience when the cameras were rolling. As soon as they turned the cameras off, she would not even acknowledge the audience. She would just sit on the couch, basically.
Toxic, phony, hypocrite, liar. That's what she is.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it, as long as you say it in a nice way.
As you may have heard, this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show, and then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were... Is that going to be a new thing? Are you going to try to be early?
Yes, I'm trying to be early.
Are you going to be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
You know I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right. Not too late, though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late, because, you know, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know?
If we're really talking about fake niceness, quiet power plays, and celebrities who built entire empires off looking like good people, then yeah, we have to talk about Ellen DeGeneres. This story starts right here, because she became the clearest example of how a perfectly polished image can fall apart the second people stop pretending it's real. For decades, Ellen branded herself as America's moral compass. The safe comedian, the smiling daytime queen, the woman who danced between segments and told everyone to be kind. While convincing millions, she was somehow above Hollywood's usual mess. She wasn't loud, she wasn't edgy, she wasn't scandal-heavy, she was comfortable, familiar, and easy to trust. And that comfort is exactly why the collapse hit so hard. When Ellen's reputation finally cracked, it didn't explode.
I heard that I was mean everywhere I go. I know everyone's heard that I'm mean. I know when I walk into a restaurant, people are watching, waiting to see if I'll be mean. Oh, look, she's reaching for butter. I thought she was gonna hit somebody.
In some dramatic scandal. It broke quietly, piece by piece, story by story, until there was nothing left to glue back together. It didn't start with an investigation or leaked files either. It started the way modern celebrity downfalls usually do now, with a single tweet. One tweet in March 2020 asking a simple question: what are the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean? And that question changed everything. That was all it took. No accusations, no screenshots, no receipts, just an open door. And once that door cracked open, people didn't just walk through. They rushed in all at once. What followed felt unreal. Story after story from people who worked near her, served her, brushed past her, or crossed her path at the wrong time. A server claimed Ellen wrote a letter to management complaining about chipped nail polish on the server's hand, not the food, nearly costing...
We were told from the very beginning, don't talk to Ellen, don't do this, you can't, go into her office. It was very nerve-wracking, very stressful. We all walked on eggshells all the time.
That person their job. A Warner Brothers employee said they were fired after holding an elevator door and politely asking what floor Ellen wanted. Another former staffer said Ellen snapped at them just for making eye contact. More people described her presence as cold, humiliating, and intimidating. The vibe wasn't warmth, it was fear. On their own, any single story could have been brushed off as exaggeration. Celebrities have bad days, misunderstandings happen, but the real issue was the volume, the consistency, different people, different locations, different years.
Well, let me catch up on what's been going on with me since you saw me last. Oh yeah, I got kicked out of show business.
All describing the same energy, control, distance, disdain for anyone who couldn't offer value. And suddenly, that cheerful daytime smile didn't look kind anymore. It looked like a mask. Then former employees from her own show started speaking out publicly, and that's when the story flipped fast. This wasn't just celebrity is rude anymore. It turned into something way darker, way heavier, and impossible to laugh off. People described a toxic workplace, a place where staff were scared to speak up, scared to question managers, scared to even exist outside Ellen's comfort zone. Some said they were punished for taking medical leave, punished for grieving family members, punished for being human when the cameras weren't rolling. And this is where BuzzFeed changed everything. Their investigation wasn't built on anonymous trolls or random rumors. It relied on former producers, writers, and staff members, people with names, histories, and nothing to gain from lying. These were insiders with receipts. They described a workplace where Ellen wasn't just distant, she was feared.
There was an allegation of a toxic workplace. You had to get rid of 3 top managers here. People went after you personally. Did that have anything to do with this decision?
Well, it's certainly, if it was why I was quitting, I would have not come back this year, because everything happened, what you're talking about is last summer. And honestly, I really did think about not coming back, because it was devastating. Because it started with me. It started with attacks on me and attacking everything that I stand for and believe in and built my career around. I am a kind person. I am a person who likes to make people happy. I am a people pleaser. This is who I am. There must be some truth to it, because it's not stopping.
These were told never to speak to her directly. Mistakes weren't corrected, they were punished. Kindness didn't exist behind the scenes. It only showed up when the lights were on and the cameras were rolling. And that's when the brand cracked wide open, because be kind isn't just a catchphrase, it's a promise. And once people realized that promise might be fake, everything collapsed at once. The jokes started sounding hollow, the laughter felt forced, the dancing looked performative. Viewers began rewatching old clips with new eyes, and suddenly moments that once felt funny felt uncomfortable. Like Ellen snapping at audience members she didn't like, humiliating guests under the cover of humor, segments where power mattered more than warmth. None of this behavior was new, it was recontextualized. The mask slipped, and people finally noticed. Ellen responded the way powerful figures often do when exposed, carefully, vaguely. She apologized without fully accepting responsibility. She blamed management, claimed she didn't know what was happening on her own show, promised change, and for a short moment, it worked. The show came back, the audience clapped, the machine kept moving, but something had shifted permanently. Ratings didn't bounce back, viewers quietly drifted away. The magic was gone. Ellen looked tired, bitter, less engaged, less dancing, less joking, more reruns, more guest hosts. The show felt like an obligation instead of an event. And when the New York Times reported she'd lost over 1 million viewers in just...
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it, as long as you say it in a nice...
6 months, it became clear this wasn't temporary. This was real reputational damage. When Ellen DeGeneres finally announced the end of her show, she framed it as boredom, a lack of challenge, a desire for something new. But nobody bought it. Not the industry, not the audience. And most importantly, she didn't look like someone choosing to leave. She didn't look like someone who...
have any real personal beef with Diddy. But it's got to go down. The bits are there. I'm a gold miner. I just found some gold.
chose to leave. She looked like someone slowly, politely pushed out. After the show ended, Ellen DeGeneres tried a few quiet moves, a documentary, some low-profile projects. Nothing really landed. Then, for a while, she vanished completely. Quiet retirement, peaceful life, a clean exit. Or at least that's what it looked like at first. Then everything shifted the moment the Sean Diddy Combs investigation exploded. Suddenly, Ellen's name started popping back up in conversations. Not as an accused criminal, not as a defendant, but as someone who had been there. Someone who joked about things people now take very seriously. Someone with proximity to a world getting exposed in the harshest light possible. Old clips resurfaced fast. Ellen laughing with Diddy, joking.
Just so sorry that it's come to this. I really don't know what to say other than this has gone on way, 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 way too long. People have gotten away with murder, and that's what's happening. So we've got to see fairness and we've got to see justice for all, because right now this is not a fair world. Not at all.
About his parties, casually acknowledging she knew about them back when it all seemed harmless. In hindsight, it didn't feel funny, it felt eerie. Then Joe Rogan stepped in publicly and pointed out something people were already thinking. Ellen's silence was starting to feel strange. Rogan didn't accuse, he questioned. Why does Hollywood protect certain people? Why do some names get dragged non-stop while others disappear quietly? Why was Ellen nowhere to be found while her old jokes were being replayed in a much darker context? Once that question was asked out loud, it couldn't be unasked, because Ellen's entire brand was built on moral authority, on calling people out, on public accountability, on kindness as an identity. And now that accountability was aimed at her, there was nothing. No clarification, no distancing, no acknowledgement, just silence. And silence, when mixed with power, money, and the ability to disappear, doesn't feel neutral. It feels calculated. That's where Ellen's story stopped being just about a toxic workplace and started feeling bigger. About Hollywood culture, about who gets protected, about how smiling faces often—
Is that going to be a new thing? Are you going to try to be early?
Yes, I'm trying to be early.
Are you going to be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
You know I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right. Not too late, though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late, because, you know, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
hide the sharpest control, about how silence isn't passive when you've spent decades speaking over everyone else. And this still wasn't the worst part, because when you line up Ellen's exposed behavior, her sudden move out of the country, her failed comeback attempt, and her proximity to figures now under serious investigation, the picture becomes impossible to ignore. Not criminal, not proven, but deeply uncomfortable. And discomfort is dangerous in Hollywood because it makes people stop clapping. Once Ellen's name started getting whispered in the same conversations as Diddy, the tone around her changed instantly, not because anyone proved crimes, but because proximity matters in Hollywood. Who you joke with, who you protect, who you stay silent for, that all becomes evidence in the court of public opinion. And Ellen's silence wasn't quiet, it was loud. When Diddy was arrested and charged, the internet did what it always does. It dug up old interviews, old clips, old jokes that aged badly. Buried in that archive were moments where Ellen wasn't just casually interacting with Diddy, she was openly laughing about his parties, his hotel rooms, his late-night behavior. Back then, it was playful celebrity banter. Now, with allegations of trafficking, coercion, and abuse surrounding his empire, those jokes don't land the same way. One clip in particular froze people. Diddy joked that the real parties start after midnight on the top floors of hotels. Ellen laughed and responded like she already knew, not shocked, not confused, just familiar. And that
audience member on The Ellen Show is now revealing how she went from thrilled to getting really upset.
You just expect a lot when you go to meet like your idol, and then when you get disappointed, it's like such a letdown.
In 2018, Dana DiMatteo flew from Chicago to Los Angeles and was delighted to be picked out of the audience to have some fun with Ellen. But then she says she was shocked when she was briefed on the comedy bit by the producers.
They tell you, you know, you can't be smarter, funnier than Ellen. She's the comedian and the star, not you.
Ellen's motto is be kind.
Be kind to one another.
But Dana says Ellen was actually the opposite on the day she visited.
How does the Ellen we see on TV compare to the Ellen you saw when the camera stopped rolling?
Totally different. She would only speak to the audience when the cameras were rolling. As soon as they turned the cameras off, she would not even acknowledge the audience. She would just sit on the couch, basically.
familiarity, more than anything, is what made people uncomfortable. Because once you understand what those parties are now alleged to have involved, that laugh stops being funny and starts feeling unsettling. That's when Joe Rogan became the first major voice to say the quiet part out loud. He didn't accuse Ellen DeGeneres of being involved in Sean Diddy Combs' crimes. He didn't claim she knew specific details either. What he questioned was the silence. Why were some celebrities rushing to distance themselves, releasing statements, clarifying they had nothing to do with it, while Ellen vanished completely? Why did her name suddenly feel off limits? Rogan framed it as Hollywood protecting its favorites. People who are too powerful, too connected, too polished to touch. And that hit because Ellen fits that category perfectly. She wasn't just a talk show host. She was a gatekeeper, a kingmaker, someone who could lift careers or quietly freeze them with a smile. And when someone like that goes silent during a scandal, people don't assume innocence. They assume strategy. That's why her sudden move to the UK raised so many eyebrows. Officially, it was about politics, about peace, about stepping away from America's chaos. But the timing was brutal. She left right as Diddy's legal situation escalated, and more celebrity names started circulating online.
Really, I'm sorry, that's embarrassing and everything, but you know, let that be a lesson to you, because you think it is. You think nobody's watching you, and you just need to be a good person just because you want to be a good person. You go sit in that Ellen jail over there right now. No, you'll steal stuff back there. Come here, this way. What's your sister's name?
Anna.
Whether fair or not, it looked like an exit. Hollywood loves clean exits, and Ellen's entire post-show life has felt like one long attempt at controlled distance. No interviews, no confrontations, no tough questions, just curated Instagram posts, countryside vibes, animal photos, soft retirement energy. It wasn't disappearing, it was rebranding through absence. But absence doesn't work when the internet refuses to forget. As more Diddy-related information surfaced, people started connecting dots that had always been there but were ignored. Ellen's history of control, her reported behind-the-scenes cruelty, her ability to command silence, her insistence that no one speak to her unless spoken to. Former staff even described the Ellen stare, that look that made people feel small without a single word being said. And when those traits get lined up next to allegations surrounding other powerful figures who ruled through fear and loyalty, the comparison gets uncomfortable fast. Not identical, not equivalent, but close enough to raise questions. That's why rumors spread so quickly, not because anything was proven, but because public trust had already collapsed. Once people believe you're capable of cruelty, they start believing you might be capable of worse. And Ellen did nothing to stop that perception from growing. Even her Netflix stand-up special felt like an attempt to control the narrative instead of confront it. She framed herself as canceled over one tweet, one misunderstanding, one moment blown way out of proportion. But that's not what happened, and audiences knew it. She didn't directly address the workplace allegations. She didn't apologize to the people who lost jobs, careers, or mental health under her leadership. Instead, she joked about being misunderstood, about being tough, about people not being able to handle honesty. For some viewers, that unapologetic tone felt bold, but for many others, it felt like gaslighting. Self-awareness is not the same thing as accountability, and the reactions proved that split instantly. Half the audience wanted to forgive Ellen DeGeneres. The other half saw the special for what it felt like. A calculated closing argument, not a confession. It came off less like a reckoning and more like a defense attorney's monologue, carefully framed to protect the brand. And that's exactly why Ellen's situation doesn't fit a typical cancellation story. She wasn't taken down by one explosive scandal. She was hollowed out slowly by accumulation, years of behavior catching up, years of silence finally being read as intent instead of ignorance. Then the Joe Rogan conversation reopened everything. Because Rogan didn't just mention Ellen, he placed her inside a system where powerful people protect each other until they can't anymore, where smiling brands hide ugly truths, where silence is currency and loyalty is leverage. Once that system gets questioned publicly, everyone connected to it feels exposed. Ellen built her empire on moral positioning, on calling people out, on embarrassing guests, on always holding the mic. And now that the mic is aimed at her, she refuses to speak. That's why the public won't let this go. Because even if Ellen never committed a crime, her behavior mirrors the same arrogance that allowed worse people to thrive unchecked. The belief that rules don't apply, that kindness can be branded while cruelty gets outsourced, that power can insulate forever. And history shows that insulation always fails, eventually. We're now in the phase where Ellen's legacy is no longer hers to control. It's being written by former employees, by resurfaced clips, by investigative podcasts, by cultural memory. And unlike ratings, you can't spin that away. The scariest part for her isn't legal trouble. It's irrelevance paired with suspicion, being remembered only in relation to darker stories. Not for dancing, not for
30.
I did.
And how was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last time I was on the show, last year, you gave me a bunch of about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited.
Well, who doesn't want to be invited to a party?
I didn't know you liked me.
Of course I like you. You knew I liked you. You've been on the show many times, and don't I show like?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But I did invite you and you didn't come. So.
This time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask Jonathan, your producer. Who said you were?
I was invited? Right. Why didn't I go?
I don't know.
Was it? Oh yeah, I had that thing.
Joy, but for silence. Because silence, when people are asking real questions, isn't peaceful anymore. It's accusatory. And the most uncomfortable question surrounding Ellen DeGeneres isn't whether she committed crimes or deserves legal consequences. It's something deeper and far more revealing about how power actually works in entertainment. The real question is why she keeps surviving while others don't. Because when you look at the pattern, Ellen didn't just get canceled and fade away. She exited clean, she cashed out, she sold property, she relocated, she avoided accountability conversations, all while the people who worked under her were left holding the damage. That's not coincidence, that's leverage. Hollywood doesn't protect people because they're good. It protects people because they're useful, connected, or dangerous to cross. And Ellen spent decades becoming all three. She wasn't just a talk show host. She was a brand-safe gatekeeper, someone sitting at the intersection of media, advertisers, celebrities, and corporate partners. And once you understand that, her survival stops looking mysterious. It starts looking structural. She knew everyone. She knew secrets. She knew where bodies were buried, metaphorically, and she knew how to protect that knowledge with silence. That's why Joe Rogan's comments hit so hard, not because he accused Ellen DeGeneres of anything specific, but because he challenged the selective outrage. Why do some names get dragged instantly while others—
My last season. So, the past 18 years, you have to know, has changed my life. You all have changed my life. And I am forever grateful to all of you for watching, for laughing, for dancing, sometimes crying. This show has been the greatest experience of my life, and I owe it—
are handled with kid gloves. Why does the media move so carefully around Ellen when she's been socially and publicly connected to people now facing serious allegations? The answer isn't complicated. It's fear and self-preservation. Ellen didn't just lose public favor, she lost control of the narrative. And for someone whose entire career was built on controlling the room, that loss cuts deep. You could see it in her final seasons. The forced laughter, the recycled clips, the drained energy, the visible detachment. That wasn't burnout, it was resentment. She didn't understand why the audience turned on her because, in her mind, she'd earned immunity. That's why her Netflix special felt so strange. It wasn't a comeback, it was a plea wrapped in sarcasm, a request for forgiveness without confession. She framed herself as misunderstood instead of responsible, hurt instead of harmful. For some fans, that worked, but for many others, it confirmed exactly what they already believed. She still didn't get it. And then there's the Sean Diddy Combs connection, the part that may ultimately define how history remembers her, not because she's proven guilty of anything, but because optics matter, silence matters, timing matters. When someone refuses to speak during a moment where speaking could clarify, reassure, or distance, people assume the worst, especially when that person built an empire on calling out others. Ellen used to corner guests, expose secrets, pressure confessions, laugh while doing it. Now that the spotlight has flipped, she wants privacy, and the public doesn't respect hypocrisy. What makes this darker is how the industry still tiptoes around her. Mainstream media barely touches the Ellen Diddy overlap. Major outlets avoid speculation. Interviews dodge the topic. It's treated like radioactive material. And that silence only fuels suspicion more. Because when stories are nothing, they get debunked loudly. When stories are dangerous, they get ignored quietly, and the internet notices that difference. Unlike traditional media, the internet doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait for indictments to form opinions. It watches behavior, it watches patterns, it watches who speaks and who hides. Ellen hiding doesn't read as peace, it reads as calculation. That's why her legacy feels unfinished. There's no redemption arc yet, no real reckoning, just retreat. And retreat doesn't heal reputations, it freezes them at their worst moment. Meanwhile, culture moved on without her. Daytime TV evolved. Influencer-driven media replaced legacy hosts. Audiences now want transparency over polish, vulnerability over control, and Ellen represents the opposite of that new era. She represents a time when power could smile and never explain itself. That era is dying. And maybe that's why this story won't disappear. Ellen isn't just a person anymore. She's a symbol of a system where kindness is marketed, cruelty is hidden. Consequences are optional if you're high enough on the ladder. So whether or not her name ever shows up in court documents, whether or not she ever addresses the Diddy situation directly, her reputation has already shifted permanently. She's no longer remembered as the be kind icon. She's remembered as the exception, the one who slipped through, the one who smiled while others paid the price. And that's not a legacy you fix with stand-up specials, documentaries, or Instagram posts. That kind of legacy lingers. So what do you think? Is Ellen just another case of bad timing and internet pile-ons? Or does her silence say more than any statement ever could? Do you think Hollywood is still protecting her? Or is this just the calm before another storm? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I actually read them. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into YouTuber drama, influencer controversies, and the stuff nobody else wants to talk about. This story isn't over yet, and knowing the internet, the next update might be even messier. I'll see you in the next one.